heard of Scientology so afraid of?
This is SPTV.
Hello, guys. Okay, there's no way to get around this. Trigger warning for this video. Disclaimer for this video, you guys. We are going to be listening to unthinkable abuse. So if you are in our community supporting us, but you may have been victimized by SA in any way, I suggest that you really think for yourself about your mental health and if this is content that you can hold space for, because we understand if anybody doesn't have the stomach for this. We rarely do ourselves. So without further ado and without bearing the lead, the truth corroborates itself. And my videos where I've been blasting the media for their abysmal, gross negligence of covering a story and monetizing has exposed a lot. And today we're going to be reacting to a video that once I saw it, it's taken a while to come up for air. This video, you guys, is about a top auditor from the United Kingdom that was interviewed by Doug at the channel Dazed and Not Confused. So you can watch the full interview there in the channel. For the interest of what I need to cover with you guys, I can only stomach one or two parts of this video. I do have to start connecting dots for people that want to, for some reason, not connect them. And I want to welcome the strength that it took for Chris to come forward with actual vulnerabilities exposed and speaking truth to power. And while he may just be on a young journey to recovery, we want to incentivize and we want to help people that want to do the right thing and want to speak to the facts and want to highlight the plight of any young souls that are being ignored by corruption, by ulterior agendas, and by fraud. Because we are still being played despite having crawled our way out of that hotel from hell. So we're going to get started, you guys. And like I said, this is not for anyone who has any kind of trigger connected to subject of unthinkable abuse. Thank you.
I don't know, but I was my bad, Alonzo and Chris. I thought that would be a segue into what are some of the things that you heard.
Okay, so one guy, I won't name him, but I was auditing him and I was pulling withholds on him, and it turns out that he was
trigger warning, by the way, guys.
Yeah,
tune out now.
This is very difficult for me to talk about because
I understand, man. Take your time.
It was harrowing to listen to, because when you're pulling withholds on someone, you have to get all the details of literally everything they've done in the withhold.
Okay, you guys, first quick reaction. To bring it back full circle to the corporate media, who has been briefed, informed, given receipts, told, given examples, given demonstrations, and given full-blown access with all books open, they still appear to not get it. That what Chris is saying here about pulling withholds is exactly what he's talking about. Getting secrets out and getting all the full details where he's about to tell you just how detailed they get. And while Chris was in his organization, and if you look at his video, he got involved as a minor. He says he walked in on his own. He wasn't brought in by parents. He got in there on his own. And it looks like he was trained as an auditor, which is absolutely common practice in any of these hotels and commercial buildings. There's all manner of young people skipping out on real education to complete 2 courses from L. Ron Hubbard because, you know, why not?
To the point of hand position, sequence of action, you have to get the whole everything right. And this guy, it turns out that he's a pedophile. And I'm not just talking about any pedophile. I'm talking about he was one of the big top guys of a network of pedophiles.
Wait,
would
what?
share. Yeah, he was like, so you have like pedophile networks, right? And they they all know each other and they all correspond. And he was one of the head honchos. So any decent, what they would call decent child imagery or video, he would further it on to everybody else. And not only that, Doug, he was making the fucking shit. So when I say making the shit, this guy, honestly.
I'm sorry, man. Take your time. Like I said, if you need to take a break, bro, I can cover the chat, man.
It's fine. This guy, he was raping children. And I had to pull it. I had to say, what did you do with this 12-year-old boy exactly?
Fuck me, man.
I want to know all the details. Anyway,
I want to know all the details. The data mining that takes place in these hotels is real. Now, just because somebody completed a 2-week course, why in the hell does that empower a person to lock themselves up and start listening to this SHIT? And to bring it back full circle to me, what Chris is talking about, I was doing starting at age 12. Repeat for the people in the back that haven't heard us for the last 8 years. It all started the same procedure that Chris is talking about doing on this adult. I was doing as a 12-year-old kid sec checker. I was at the same level as Chris. When Chris was class 4 in his 20s, I was already that by 12 years old. And I wasn't the only one. There was Natalie, there was Iride, there was Lily, there was Danya, there was Laura, there was Karen, there was Catherine, Rocio. Those are just off the top of my head. All under 18 minors in those hotels getting certificates to do what Chris is saying he was doing. You could be a girl, You could be a boy. That was asked of me in the comments. And thank you for that question. So yes, it could be a boy. It could be a girl. It could literally, doesn't matter. It didn't matter. Nothing had a rhyme or a reason. So it's not just anything, you guys. It really just isn't.
This was the first day. I swear to God, I got home and I was like, I need a fucking drink.
Wait,
Like,
this was day one of your.
this was day one of him.
Now think about this for a minute, you guys. Chris was in a class 5 org. Chris went into the commercial building where he was doing this interrogation and listening to the felonies being self-admitted, because apparently also in England, shout out to you, legal system of England, that is just as clueless as the American legal system and just as clueless as anyone else that is hosting this operation in their country. So before anyone starts pointing fingers, y'all are in this together. I was in that hotel. I couldn't go take a drink. I couldn't leave after I was tasked with the same unthinkable things that this man is talking about. I couldn't go anywhere because I was 14 years old. My passport was locked up in the hotel. My movements were monitored by the minute, by the hour. There were cameras everywhere. I couldn't make a phone call outside of the hotel. There was no one to call. Anyways, who was I supposed to call? Who was I supposed to call? So keep that into perspective, because as Chris is saying, and I don't wish this on my worst enemy, to be doing this as a so-called job, as a so-called religious, I mean, again, with the BS talking points that have everything with obscuring the facts, that have everything with gaslighting and generalizing what it is that they call it. I don't know what you call what this man is saying here. And if all these countries want to write us a letter and tell us that they also want to join in on the conversation and say, yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's very religious when you're asking the head of a major what he just said, network, to come on here to get your freak on. Just another chance. Why not? Why not gloat to somebody that will sit there if you pay him to listen?
What? Of him,
No.
not your auditing.
No, this was just him. Yeah, it's not my
The
auditing.
first session with this PC, that's the first thing.
It wasn't
that you
the
got
first
out of?
session. It wasn't the first session. It was further down the line.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was as someone who's got children themselves, and I had young children at the time, I was I mean, I was mortified from having.
I have to point this out, you guys. As Chris is mentioning that he was mortified and that he was like shocked and that he was nauseated and that he was disgusted and that he couldn't believe what he was doing. When I was being trained to do this, given the fact that I was started at 12, I didn't think anything of it. None of that raised any red flags to me, because you know what? I was told that they were just getting an out to the overt off. And if you don't know what the hell I just said, go ask Monique Yingling what that means. She I'm sure, can explain it very well, what that exactly means. Because that's the kind of thing, technology, that is trained into minors that are on her billion-year contracts. So it is utterly abominable and unacceptable. And it's being juxtaposed that this man's experience is what they also had minors at the Fort Harrison Hotel doing.
Having heard what I heard. So anyway, the next day, I take him back in session, right? Now, here's the thing on this, right? So I started pulling withholds and overts on him again of being involved in making and distributing child pornography, right? This guy was not sitting across from me in such a way as to be sorrowful for his actions, upset, you know, like, yeah, like, I did this, and I sent this video of this 10-year-old girl being, and I just can't believe I did that, and blah. To some degree,
He was
I'm
proud.
not okay with that. I'm not okay with that. But this guy was bragging
I know.
to me.
Yeah.
He was like, I found this great video.
Oh my God, dude.
Because you want to hear about this video. I'm going to tell you all about it.
God, dude.
And he goes, and he's sitting there bragging. And
well, guess what, you guys? They all were bragging to us when we had to pull their withholds. They were in a safe space. Repeat, these hotels and these commercial buildings are a safe space for these people to discuss self-admitted felonies, including but not limited to minors. All video recorded, all with contemporaneous notes of the admissions that they're paying to get laundered, to pay to float. That's what they call it. An auditor like Chris was tasked of getting all the details and making that needle float. He couldn't leave the room unless that person said that they were feeling wonderful after just having admitted to all the felonies that they just were being asked about, because these people were being asked to speak about that. And while everyone pretends that this is just nothing, it's not just nothing. It's not just nothing.
I don't know if people know this or not, but it's actually illegal for an auditor to just end session mid-session.
Right.
And I mean, I feel for you, Chris, but you're calling it illegal for an auditor. So I agree. All the rules of auditing were purported to be very whatever it was, but that was just delusion. There is no such thing as illegal. What's illegal is what was going on in that hotel and how you are co-opted into being part of that operation, just like every last auditor that is in there doing this dirty jobs. So that's what needs to be understood, that there is nothing legal about what the hell is going on. Or if somebody of the big experts worldwide want to tell us, the kids that had to do that too, write us a letter and tell us why this was all so legal. We really would like to understand. We cannot be more confused.
I ended that session without ending.
Good for you. Good for you.
I just put my pen and paper down. Right. I said to him, can you go wait in the PC lounge? So he looked confused. He got up. He sat down.
Confused, guys, because they were promised a safe space to discuss this kind of detail.
The PC lounge. I went into the CS office. My heart was pumping. I wanted to kick the fucking living shit out.
As you fucking should have, man. And it would have been
Well, I'll get to
justified.
that because so anyway, I want to kick the living shit out of him. And the ED and the senior case supervisor came in the office and said, Chris, what's going on? Why have you entered the session? And I said, this guy who's sitting in there is raping and sending images of children being fucked by adults. And he's a head honcho, and I'm not going to listen to it anymore. I said, in fact, I'm going to go in there now. I'm going to kick the fuck out of him.
Yeah.
And I had to be physically restrained.
Okay, let's just contextualize something there for you guys. The CS office is the converted room in either a hotel or a commercial building that these people run, where what Chris suggested is the case supervisor. The case supervisor is the person who is watching, listening, and reading everything that is being done in that hotel. And then the ED is the executive director. So the executive director, whatever it is that you want to pitch that ass, religious, whatever, what was an executive director doing in a case supervisor's office discussing self-admitted felonies of this nature by this man, Chris, who completed a 2-week course from L1 Hubbard, who got a certificate. He's got no legal background. He's got no legal merits to be listening to that level of class 8 self-admitted felony.
They pulled me back. So I then said, okay, fine. I'm not going to kick the fuck out of him. But here's what I'm going to do. I am going to the police right now.
Good for
Because,
you.
yeah. And they said to me, you know what the response was? If you do that, Chris, you'll be committed and declared.
Okay, you guys, yet again, just when we feel Scientology could not shock us anymore, the two people that were inside the room with Chris told Chris that if the man who just admitted to what he just said, the unthinkable abuse that we just heard, the magnitude, the scale, what about the kids that were under that man's horrific danger? What about them? Where's their voice on this matter as these two people that get granted access to run a commercial building in the United Kingdom where apparently their laws are just as toothless as the United States ones, where their Congress is just as inept, because apparently all it takes is for you to have money and people that can put lies on the record to run these type of centers. Apparently there is no guardrails. There is nothing that can stop this insanity.
Guys, I know that sounds impossible, but this is the
It's
real
actual policy.
shit.
It's real.
Yep,
This is
that's
real.
right. And this is why you might understand more of the Danny Masterson case and the rapes and covers up. And Chris, can I ask you a real quick question?
I don't know if you guys can understand the Danny Masterson case more because of what is being discussed here. There's more context to the Danny Masterson case, correct. But all of it is just unbelievable. And the fact that this is what's being done, it doesn't matter where you are, it doesn't matter what hotel you step into. These people pride themselves of standard technology is what they call it. So whatever it is that they're doing in England, they're supposed to be doing at the Fort Harrison Hotel. Whatever's happening at the Fort Harrison Hotel is happening at the Sandcastle Hotel. Whatever's happening at the Sandcastle Hotel is happening at the Manor Hotel. And on and on and on and on and on. So anyways.
And I hope I don't sidetrack you, but I've been really curious about this because I've always had my suspicions because of how damaged the family relationships and fucked up people can become in that environment. How rampant would you say, just based on your own knowledge, is pedophilia? Is that something that has yet to come out about Scientology on any scale, or is it a minor issue? If you had to speculate,
It's a minor issue.
Chris, I'm going to have pushback on it's a minor issue. And you might have just found those two people. The type of severity and magnitude of the crimes you just said are unthinkable. So I would say, I wouldn't have, how can you even say that's small, first of all? But it's okay. I get it. This is not easy for you to talk to. And again, thank you for at least coming forward with it. So this is not on you. This is on the people that are puppeteering the whole thing. But to say that it's a minor thing is just not true. And I'll tell you why. I'll tell you from my experience at the Fort Harrison Hotel, the mecca of this place. There were unthinkable abuse that happened at the Quality Inn Hotel Motel, where all the cadets were when I was in Florida. Okay, and there were a lot of instances. They were always reported. They were always investigated. They were always data mined. They always had all the information, and they always chose to curtail the law at the Quality Inn Hotel. Now let's go to the Coachman Building, where the students go, where there's minors and adults all scrambled in these grooming salons where they're being taught with dolls how to erode boundaries and how to normalize you sitting across from someone asking the type of questions you thought the 2-week course in those hotels gave you the power to be asking. The Fort Harrison Hotel was filled with rooms, 3 floors, entire hotel floors. That hotel is enormous. Every room had cameras, massage tables. And again, very handsome, very pretty, young souls were recruited to be at the front lines doing the work that the people that visit and frequent these hotels pay $500 an hour or upwards of that to sit there and have their hotel experience at the expense of whatever. They want to go free, they're paying, go service them, is what we were told. So I have to push back on this minimizing narrative that we keep hearing, because the fact is, so many minors involved with so many adults, and where are the reports at these police stations? Last we checked in Clearwater, Florida, there is none. Last we checked at the LAPD, only the Masterson girls were able to file those police reports. And guess what? They were not in the Sea Org. That was their only saving grace. Had those girls been in the Sea Org, they would have had no chance. So this is a widespread disease that took place all across the chains of hotels and commercial buildings. Moreover, those hotels and commercial buildings were used as safe houses to purport to be giving them programs to clean themselves and run out all manner of statute of limitations. And that's where all of this comes full circle. So it cannot be minimized. It has to be accepted for what it is, the reality of what it is. And the fact that the data mining operation that everybody was calling a sec check gave everyone access to everything, denies all people that got involved in this activity of plausible deniability. So keep that fully into perspective. And again, you don't represent but an iota of this problem. You're the one that's coming forward. So again, thank you for coming forward. Thank you for making our point. Thank you for letting us hold this media accountable that keep sticking their head in the sand. God knows why. God knows why.
So this guy, so I said to the senior CS, he, if I remember correctly, I think he had to go back in and finish the session on him because I refused. I got in a lot of trouble for that.
So the senior CS, you guys, is one of these people that do the 2-week course and that get placed in these positions of authority and command to overlook everything. And the way it works is if Chris walks out on this self-admitted, unthinkable, disgusting man, he's being cajoled, he's being manipulated into doing whatever it is that they're doing there, which is unthinkable already. But this man comes in and bypasses Chris. That's what they called it. It's like, if you don't do your job, someone else is going to come in and do it. And we're going to see the psychological terror that then these people triple down, and now they double down on Chris going through the terror for refusing to partake in it and being controlled to not do the right thing. Even after his instincts told him what was the right thing, they still managed to gaslight him and completely sterilize their operation with all of these horrific, disgusting ulterior agendas that had nothing to do with helping any of the criminal activity they were getting paid to uncover.
Also into ethics,
Wow,
cramming. And what boils my fucking piss even more is that this guy was a huge donator to the Ideal Law Project. The very next morning, I walk in the corridor, and guess who's sitting in the ED's office, having coffee, laughing and joking?
it's so
This
fucking
fucking
disgusting.
child rapist. This child rapist was sitting there in the ED's office, laughing and joking, and he just donated another £200.
I knew the day would come, the day of reckoning would come, when the truth would start coming out and when people would be actually offering this information that is at the very core, that is the very central aspect of why these commercial buildings and hotels are out there purporting they're going to save the world while getting rich themselves by laundering felonies for what we just saw. They get to laugh and joke. We're talking about the man that Chris said was a self-admitted network runner. I mean, again, like, what kind of laws are in place protecting these hotels from keeping their doors wide open? Oops, never mind. They're not wide open. They're wide shut, right? Because every single person that gets admitted in there has to be pre-qualified. They have to make sure they're not going to be a legal liability. So let's really keep everything in context right now.
And guess what? The ED knew. She knew what he was doing.
I don't even know what the fuck to say. I mean,
I do. I know what the fuck to say.
Please.
Fucking wow.
That doesn't cover it. Did you go in and see that happening? And then did you have a response? What the fuck is going through your mind when
My
you
response
saw
was, well, they tried to put him back with me.
that? No
as a
way.
PC. And I said,
my.
I am not touching this guy with a barge pole. You can absolutely fucking be. And they're like, you can't refuse to actually, per policy, refuse to audit a PC. I says, guess what? A child rapist? Yes, I can. I don't want to hear that shit. Thank you. And and he was around on lines for quite some time after. But now here's the thing. After I left, right? After I left, it took me several years to Google his name to find out if he'd been caught. Because if he had not been caught, that was on me, actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was I should have done something at the time.
It's
Because
okay,
all those, yeah, but it's not okay.
I understand, but you were, let's just say.
It's not okay. It's not okay at all. And I Googled him 6 months ago. And guess what? He was arrested and charged. He got caught a few years ago. Police raided his home, took his hard drive, his servers, and he got charged with 1 count of making indecent images of children.
Wow.
Several counts of having animal pornography with women and children and boys on his computer. And he didn't even get sent to jail.
Are you shitting me?
I'm not shitting you. He got a 12-month community order and a fine. And he also, but what the police don't know is that this guy was actually a ringleader of an entire porn network.
Are you sure the police don't know?
The police do not know.
They're not involved in covering up.
Guess what? In Birmingham Morgue, 8 miles away from my house, there is a file. And that file tells exactly what he was up to.
Are you saying that you specifically have the file, or you know what's going on? I mean,
I don't have the file.
Okay, guys, and once again, shout out to all these police departments. You know, all the guys holding the guns that apparently can't find it in their intellect to go and stop what's happening there 24/7. And again, how many years has there been suspicious activities reported in these hotels? Why has not a single police department all across the world had a chance to do anything? I understand that your job can be hard. I understand that you don't maybe know how to do your job or whatever, but all of you don't know how to do your job? Not one single police department in the entire world has been able to find anything at all? I mean, literally, the only time police ever cared or showed up to do anything is when their agencies were being infiltrated by our abusers. That's when they cared. That's when they came down with the indictments. That's when they got DOJ involved. But you know what? No matter what else has been done in these hotels, how many years later, and we have this much coming from any police department. So let's keep asking questions and demanding answers, because when things don't make sense, you have to find out, why are they not making any sense? What is going on? How can every last police department out there be so negligent at best and corrupt at worst?
So Scientology keep files and everything.
Mm-hmm.
They never throw anything away. So those files there are sitting there in the org all of his session notes, my session notes.
That's the audacity of this criminal enterprise, you guys. They take notes, they keep the notes, they know what's going on, they video record it, they have every single thing about it. So before everyone wants to give these people the benefit of the doubt, and maybe they didn't know, maybe they weren't aware. Well, you know what? It's bad news for all of them. They were all aware, they were all in the know. Every last policy of L. Ron Hubbard told them it was their job to know. So it's all being done with full knowing. What Chris said, when the executive director of the org knows what's going on, knows what came up in the sec check. I mean, we have that Tampa Bay report that people that were supposed to be getting money out of people would be getting data that was being data mined from these so-called sec checks back to them so that they could go and reg them, is what they were calling it. But I guess that does not include the personal offices of the government being inconvenienced. So I guess it sucks to be a kid that all of this horrific abuse happened to, because they only care when it's them getting harassed, but they don't care what happens to any kid.
Are all sitting there, and they knew, and they covered up for him because he was flashing the cash.
Do you think that cash helped him to get out of having any kind of a actual?
Yeah,
sentence?
and it was all part of his plan, actually.
Really?
He was flashing the cash because he knew that he would be protected.
That's fucking so disturbing on so many levels. I can't believe that, man.
Yeah.
Well, it's not that hard to believe, Doug. When we were in the technical division at the Fort Harrison Hotel, that was a weekly occurrence. If it wasn't one, was another. These people were brought from all places across the globe to the Fort Harrison Hotel. And this is called standard operating procedure. So what Chris is sharing here with us, once again, is literally a scintilla of what these hotels do day in and day out. So the problem is huge. The iceberg is real.
Try listening to it.
That's what I'm saying, brother. I mean,
try being a kid that listens to it.
That must have taken every ounce of TR training to not flip over the desk and lunge at him and literally kill him. That's the reaction I tried to.
TR training, you guys, is those drills that they had us do so we would be completely desensitized, where people yelled out obscenities, including but not limited to what was just shared in this video. Somebody could be saying that to us on the chair, and if we reacted to them coming onto us during what they called a drill, even though everything they said to us was in real time, they were calling that a drill. Oh, this is just a drill, as if we were little actors, robots, being desensitized and being thrown into these unthinkable abuse traps.
I tried to, and I was stopped.
Yeah. And not only that, Chris, they covered it up, and they made you were the one that did something wrong in Scientology. So you can see the extreme reverse of the ethics.
I was the one at fault. Yeah.
How fucking ridiculous is that?
And
yeah. Okay, you guys, I think I've seen enough. I think I've seen all that I can personally take about this video. And I wanted to put it on the record so that all of those people that are having such a hard time connecting dots but are profiting from our stories start being hit with receipts, so they understand that we are serious about making our point. And we are serious about holding enablers accountable, Because if the environment is not being provided for these atrocities to happen without anyone giving an F, then that's how these environments are breeding all of these horrible things that we now are stuck having to come back to hold people accountable, because what is it going to take? What is it going to take for people to stop playing dumb? I think that's a good question to end this segment with, you guys. What is it going to take to stop playing dumb? Let's put that question out there, and let's tag some people that need to start figuring out what in the hell is really going on. You know, we'd love to hear from the Clearwater Police on the heels of your abysmal investigation on this specific subject. Someone in that department can start opening their eyes. LAPD, same. NYPD, same. Everywhere these people are operating, same. Willful blindness is not an excuse. I'll leave you guys with that.